Namaste and greetings. I'm Niharika, researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute. Prabhav एवं नीति अनुसंधान संस्थान नई दिल्ली extend my warmest welcome to you all to IMPRI Web Policy Learning. Today marks day 2 of presentations of the Diplomacy, Foreign Policy and Geopolitics Youth Fellowship Cohort 2.0 and online international autumn school program. A 3-month immersive online introductory leadership certificate training fellowship program organized by IMPRI's Center for International Relations and Strategic Studies. The chair for this program is Professor Sanjukta Bhattacharya ji, retired professor International Relations, Jadavpur University, Kolkata, visiting professor IMPRI, and Dr. Simi Mehta ma'am, CEO and editorial director, IMPRI. The conveners for today's program are Dr. Arjun Kumar ji and Dr. Simi Mehta ji. Before we begin, I would like to state the housekeeping rules to please join the meeting on time. There will be a Q&A session after each presentation. Share your questions in the Q&A box. There must not be any presentation or question posted as an anonymous attendee. Ensure that your questions are precise. Refrain from making general comments in the question to save time. We will now move on ahead to the fellows' creative project presentations. All of you are requested to present your work within 4 to 5 minutes, after which our chair will present their remarks on the same. We will start with Ms. Fatima Chandaji. You can begin with your presentation, ma'am. Fatima Chanda, ma'am, you can begin with your presentation.
Niharika, I think Fatma is not here. So we can go ahead with the next presentation. And I request the participants to please accept the request to join as panelists. That will allow you to share your screens.
We will go ahead with Kushbu Saoji.
Yes, I.
Your audio is having a lot of resound. If you could, start again.
Kushbu, you're joining from two devices. Just
Yeah, I have
mute one
joined.
of. Yeah, now it's fine. Now your audio
Is it
is fine.
fine now?
Yeah,
Okay,
but
well,
accept the link to join as panelists. That will allow you to share your screen.
right. Hello. I hope my audio is visible as well as my screen is also. I mean, I'm audible as well as my screen is
Yes, yes.
visible.
Yes, yes.
Yes. So, good afternoon, everyone. Today, I'll be presenting my project on geopolitics of food and how foreign aid, agriculture, and nutrition define the 21st century alliances. So, food may appear to be a basic human necessity, but in international politics, it has become much more than that. It is a tool of power, diplomacy, and strategic influence. So my study has particularly examined India's role in this food geopolitical nexus, and especially through the South-South cooperation. So to begin with the abstract, so food has become a decisive force in shaping 21st century geopolitics. If Cold War was about military and economic leverage, the present era is increasingly about food security and nutrition. States today just don't use food for humanitarian aid purposes. They also deploy agricultural aid and nutrition programs, trade flows as strategic diplomatic tools. So, this raises two crucial questions. How do states use agricultural aid and nutrition programs to build influence? A. And B. What role does global South actors play, particularly India, in shaping food diplomacy? So, my study answers these questions by looking at policy documents, trade flows, and case studies. What emerges is that food has a dual nature. On one hand, it fosters solidarity, but on the other hand, it can reinforce dependencies, raising ethical concerns of sovereignty and sustainability. And scholars like Jennifer Clapp and Raj Patel emphasize that global food system is not neutral; it is deeply embedded in politics and economics. So, like to take an example of U.S. Food for Peace program in 1950. So, while they were humanitarian on the surface, they also created long-term agricultural markets for American farmers and cemented U.S. influence abroad. And more recently, China's Belt Road Initiative diplomacy investing in African farmlands, hybrid rice projects, and agricultural technology transfers shows how Beijing uses food and agriculture to expand its influence. However, what is striking in the literature is that much of it is again not centric. It focuses on how the US, Europe, or China use food geopolitics, but less on on how global South actors are shaping these trends. So this is where my project steps in, as India offers a particularly interesting case. Historically, India was a major food aid recipient, especially during the Green Revolution. But today, India is a food donor and an architect of South-South cooperation, especially in Asia and Africa. Thus, my motivation was to reframe food geopolitics through a Southern perspective, showing that Global South is not just a recipient but a proactive agent of food diplomacy. So, as stating the objectives and methodology, as stated, are to analyze how food aid, agricultural policies, and nutrition initiatives are used as geopolitical tools, and to evaluate India's contribution in diplomacy through South South cooperation and UN platforms such as WFP and FAO, and to identify emerging alliances in the 21st century. And in short, the idea was to understand both the strategic and humanitarian side of food in global politics. And the methodology that I have incorporated includes three main approaches, which are policy analysis, case studies, and literature review. And additionally, I have relied on government reports, UN agency data, and trade statistics. Now, to move to the report, the analysis and the findings. So, India has emerged as a key donor and partner. For instance, in 2021 to 22, India exported 21 million tons of rice, making it the world's largest rice exporter and accounting about 40% of global trade. In 2022, during the global food crisis triggered by Ukraine war, India supplied about 1.8 million tons of wheat to countries in need, including Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, and several African states. Through the World Food Program, India contributed both food grains and financial aid, such as about $4 million donation in 2020 to support food security in Africa and the Middle East. Now, another example is the school feeding programs. India not only runs world's largest midday meal schemes domestically, feeding over 118 million children daily, but it has also shared this model with countries in Africa through technical assistance. And when we compare this with US and Chinese initiative, the US Food for Peace program still dominates in scale, spending about $2 billion annually, and China, meanwhile, ties its agricultural aid with Belt and Road corridors, securing farmlands and food supply chains. But India India's model is distinctive as it emphasizes capacity building, training, and nutrition rather than just trade or strategic corridors. This reflects a new paradigm of food diplomacy, one that goes beyond caloric sufficiency to address nutrition security. Now, some of the key findings of my like so to summarize some of the findings are in terms of how the shift has been in food diplomacy, India's alternative model, and dependency concerns and nutrition diplomacy. Now, to come up with the policy recommendations that I have and to address the challenges, I propose to strengthen South South food cooperation platforms with more equitable frameworks, prioritize nutrition sensitive policies in food aid to avoid dependency traps, and promote multilateralism under UN agencies like FAO and WFP to balance power asymmetries, and develop regional food reserves in Asia and Africa to reduce reliance on politically conditional aid. So, in conclusion, food has been a diplomatic currency in the 21st century. It can either unite nations through solidarity or deepen inequalities through dependency. India's evolution from aid recipient to aid donor deepens inequalities through dependency, and India's and shows how global South is refraining food diplomacy. And to challenge ahead is to build food alliances that are inclusive, sustainable, and nutrition oriented, so that food remains a catalyst for cooperation rather than conflict. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Kushbu. That was a very interesting paper, and I'm glad you're looking at food as a diplomatic tool. Uh, but basically, your focus is on India, uh, and maybe on the global south, you can talk about, I mean, whatever it is that you want. Maybe that should be added as a subtitle in your, you know, with a focus on. The focus is on India or the global south, right? Uh, since that is your focus from what I can make out from your paper. So maybe you can add that as a subtitle in your title itself. Okay, number one.
Sure, ma'am.
The second thing that I wanted to talk about is, since you're talking about India, well, there is so much of interconnectedness now, all right? Because companies like, say, Pepsi and all, they have contracted with Punjab farmers and all that. You know, a lot of it is basically going into that, all right? So maybe you should look into that dimension also, all right? And how do, for instance, you see, I mean, when other things like tariffs, all right, uh, affect, all right, uh, uh, food, the food chain, okay, or do they at all? You see, because is that left out of the tariff, this thing, or I'm not sure really. So that's what I'm asking you to look into that. All right. So how will that also, since this is geopolitics and diplomacy that you're talking about, how will that basically affect the food chain when it comes to it comes to India particularly, all right, and the global south. Uh, Apart from that, India itself, all right, sending farmers, all right, to well, it did not work out well, Ethiopia, but also to other countries in Africa, all right, because they have given land to Indian farmers, all right, because India's uh, green revolution is something that other global south countries, especially countries in Africa, are uh, have always kind of admired, and they want that kind of thing in their country too. So is India using that also as a geopolitical tool, all right, to get closer to African countries, all right? Food diplomacy comes in there. It's not just donor aid or trade, all right? It's also uh, a question of uh, helping the technology, all right, technology transfer, south technology transfer, all right, India using that as a leverage. So uh, it's over there. But of course, United States is the biggest producer, and so is, all right, I mean, Russia, etc. I think you should mention that also, all right. When it comes to grain and things like that, we are nowhere near their production. We are exporting that way, but uh, uh, these are real big grain producers, and they can. So, uh, how does India? kind of, you see, leverage its way in, all right, into the food market, all right, because farmers in the United States are given a lot of subsidies, as a result of which they can uh, sell their products at a cheaper rate. And African countries find it very difficult to basically compete with them at that level. So when it comes to the global south, uh, well, uh, the subsidies or the uh, diplomacy of subsidies, etc. That has been objected to in many of these conferences, world conferences, and all that. Okay, uh, so that subsidies come down, and well, there's an even playing field at the international level. So there are certain aspects that you'd like, I'd like you to look into. I know it's a very brief paper and all that, but just bring them in, all right, as a listing and your title, all right. If you're focusing on India or the global south, use that as a subtitle. Okay.
Sure, ma'am.
Thank you, Kupshu. Because it's a good paper, and I'm glad it's written. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Would now like to invite Shrija Gupta, ma'am.
Um, I'm unable to share my screen for some reason. I mean, I've been promoted to panelist, but
No, you're not in the panelist as of yet. Please accept the request that you just said. Once you join as a panelist, you're declining the request. That's why it's happening.
I can't see any of the links. Is it in the chat box?
Now, see, no. There might be a pop-up.
But there's no such link in it. It's just saying you're being promoted to a panelist.
Okay. Niharika, can we go to the next participant in the meanwhile? Shriji, we're sharing another link to you via WhatsApp. You can rejoin from that link.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Ravina Shivshankarji, you can go ahead now.
Hello, is my screen visible? And
Yes.
am I audible?
Yes, you're
Okay.
audible.
My research project is on strategic foreign investments in East Africa. I'll be focusing on Gulf investments and particularly UAE as a country. The reason why I'm choosing East African region is because it is one of the most resource-rich regions in Africa, and it has abundant of resources such as coal, oil, natural gas, which are very scarce globally, and therefore they have high demand globally. And also, this becomes a hotbed for foreign investments. Other than that, East Africa has a lot of internal challenges, which creates a lot of gaps. And through these gaps, the foreign investments, the foreign actors, they enter and they seek influence, such as internal challenges such as border disputes between countries like Kenya, Uganda, political instability in South Sudan or in Tanzania, then presence of militant groups and the resource competition between resources and the ownership of the resources. These are some of the internal challenges which East Africa faces. In my research, I'll be noting down who are the investors in this region, where are they investing, in which countries they are investing, and what are they investing in, like infrastructure, mining, developments, etc., and why are they investing? Because behind the billion-dollar investments and projects, there should be a reason attached to this. So, starting with DP World, which is a which is a private entity, UAE-based logistics company, and they have invested a lot of projects and money in African continent. Since I'm focusing on East Africa, I found out that they have invested in Tanzania, Kenya, and Somaliland, and projects such as Dar es Salaam Port, Lamu Port, Berbera Port. And there are also a lot of reports that in their investments in Tanzania, when they signed the agreement, there were a lot of protests and there were a lot of criticism that they are seeking influence. And there were a lot of criticism on Tanzania government because they have handled such a key national asset to a foreign company. So these are some of the controversies which DP World faces. the similar for Somaliland. The other one is from UA, from the UAE. Once again. Yes, from UA, which is from the state. They are, for example, there were a lot of reports and studies on UA's investment in the military base in Somalia, Puntland region, which is the autonomous state in Somalia. They are also alleged in supporting Sudan's Rapid Support Forces, RSF, which is against RAF, which is Sudan's Rapid Armed Forces. And they have been supported by Saudi and Egypt. And it is also said that through this investment, they can support militarily and logistic-wise to RSF in order to secure access in Sudan's gold mine. So this could be a strategic reason. The other investments through UAE are from Masdar, which is a state-owned renewable energy company, and International Resources Holding, IRH, which is also, again, a UAE-based company, which is a state-owned company. And they have 51% of stake in the copper mines. So these are some of the examples from UAE investments. Why the focus on UAE is because it is by far the most engaged regional actor in East Africa. They have projects over $47 billion, which is a lot. And they have actively invested in all of the sectors such as infrastructure, energy, mining, port development, etc. So therefore, there was a focus on UAE, and this is where I'll be studying on more investments and why are they investing, and also be studying the controversies which they have been dealt with. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravina. This was interesting, and it's focused. It's good. You have taken on, I think, 3 companies, and UAE is in general as such, 3 or 2, 3 companies which have invested, and UAE as a whole, and why they're investing, which is a good reason. So why don't you kind of, make it, uh, focus it on military reasons, economic reasons, kind of break it up, all right? Because that's exactly what I was getting to this thing. Uh, uh, when it comes to the UAE, all right? And basically, what is the outcome of these investments? Uh, are they building up? The other thing I pointed out, Somaliland is not recognized, okay? So you can say Somaliland region, all right? Don't say Somaliland because it's not recognized. It's supposed to be part of Somalia, uh, but they don't bother about the central government in any case, all right? Uh, so Somaliland region or something like that. I mean, because it's not recognized, it's not a country, all right? So they are investing in that region, and does Somalia, the central government, have any idea? I mean, they're opposing it, right? If the port that they're going to build up or whatever in in the Somaliland region. Uh, so there is this thing. So what I want is uh, the outcome. Have, like a lot of investment uh, by other countries, all right, even by India or China, the lines of credit and all that. When you really look at it, the lines of credit which India has given to many countries and all that, okay, those are okay, they are there on paper. Some have been accessed, some have not. All right. So basically, what UAE is investing, what is the outcome of that? I mean, are they getting what they want, or are they just putting it in? Are they following it up? All right. Uh, what about the rebels? All right. Are they accepting it? I mean, if Somalia, the central government opposes, are these projects going ahead? Okay. So take a look at the outcome also. Okay. I think it's very interesting because people work on China, Russia, the EU, India, and even the US, or at least even today, they work on these investments. Okay, but they don't look at Malaysia, UAE, who are also investing quite a bit. Even Egypt is investing. So local countries are, I mean, local regions and areas and countries of the global south are also investing in Africa. And you've taken the East African region, all right? First, explain why is that region important. You said that it's minerals. It's not only that; it's a strategic area. So far as trade is concerned. All right. Yeah. It has always been. Okay, the ports are very important. Okay, especially it's near the choke point. All right, the Red Sea choke point. So these are important countries for trade. Okay, also. Uh, Now, so therefore, basically, the importance should also the geographical importance of this region, apart from the minerals and whatever they have. All right. So that is very important. That's the reason that that India, the IOR, Indian Ocean region, is important for that, and why they are investing in the Seychelles and building up. All right. So because it is so important. So they are interested also that this should remain free. Okay, so far as trade is concerned. Also just mentioned the UAE, all right, with fossil fuel, all right, maybe it's going to be replaced in the future, not so distant future, all right. Uh, you have electric cars because of the emissions and all that. Also, fossil fuel has a certain life, all right. So that is this thing. So they are what these Arab countries, which are now very rich, they are uh, uh, diverting, all right? They're diverting the industries. They're trying to build up their own economies in different ways. So East Africa and the minerals are important to the UAE for their own survival, for their own economic development. So maybe these are things that you should also add on a little bit, all right? Maybe a line to the extent because depending on how long your project is going to be, all right? But all the points should be covered, I think, right? Ravina, but it's a good paper, and I'm very glad that you're working on this. Thank you.
Thank you. That's really great. I'll incorporate the points you mentioned.
Okay.
Sure.
Have
Thank
you
you.
got all the points? Have you understood?
Yes, I've got all the points.
Okay, right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ravina ji. We would now like to invite Sri Gupta ji again. Sri Gupta ji, are you able to share your screen now?
Yes, I've joined as a panelist, but I still can't share my screen.
There must be a green button with the share written on it at the bottom of the toolbar where all your mic and video options are there.
No, there's no such green button.
Are you using laptop or are you joining from phone?
A tablet.
Tablet. Okay.
Priyanka, why didn't she send it to you?
Yes.
Email it to you so you can put it up from your side.
Yes.
Okay, should I send it over WhatsApp? The PPT?
Yes, you can watch it.
Okay, all right.
Should we go to the next one in the meanwhile?
Okay, ma'am. We have Chetan Prakash Kaushik ji presenting next.
We can't hear you. We can just see your screen share.
Hello.
Yes,
Yes.
we can hear you now, sir, but your video is not visible.
Ma'am, actually, camera is not working.
Okay. Okay, no
That's
problem.
all right. If you can go full screen, then you can please start.
Yes, ma'am. May I?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ma'am. My theme of my research work is India's role in global climate diplomacy, which emphasizes how climate change influence geopolitics and how India leads green partnerships globally while striking a balance between development and sustainability. In this part, how water scarcity, biodiversity loss, and climate change affect world politics. India stands out as a major actor, striking a balance between environmental responsibility and development. As the Global South spokesperson for climate justice and CBDR, which means common but differentiated responsibilities, India promotes sustainable growth and global collaboration on climate action while guaranteeing fairness in negotiations. In this part, India's active climate diplomacy through international partnership and initiative is highlighted in this slide. The Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, which is also known as CDRI, enhances resilience against climate risks, while the International Solar Alliance encourage solar adoption globally. On clean technologies, India also works with superpowers like the uh, US, EU, and Japan. India exhibits leadership, strikes a balance between its national interest and its international obligations, and promotes innovation driven green diplomacy for sustainable development through platforms like G20, BRICS, and COP. For example, India and US has collaborated for NISAR satellite launch on July 30, 2025. Second, India and EU collaborates for joint research on marine pollution and waste to hydrogen in May 2025. These difficulties India is facing, India's climate diplomacy are discussed in this part. India's transition to clean energy is being slowed by its continued heavy resilience on coal, as developed countries fail to provide the promised climate funds. Financial gaps continues to exist. High pressure and obstacle related to intellectual property restrict access to cutting edge green technologies. Despite its low per capita emissions, India is also under external pressure to accelerate its decarbonization. India's greatest challenge continues to be striking a balance between development priorities and climate responsibilities. India's new climate action opportunity are highlighted in this part. By 2030, the country wants to have 500 gigawatt of renewable energy, with solar power driving the change. Its low carbon transition is further reinforced by the green hydrogen mission. Young people are becoming more involved, which foster advocacy and innovations. For example, past 2 years, sorry, growing international collaboration improves access to and investment in clean technology. For instance, India and the EU increased collaboration in next generation energy solution in 2030 by launching a partnership on offshore wind and green hydrogen. India's rising promises as a leader in global climate governance is highlighted in the closing slide of slide number 6. India, a representative of the Global South, projects soft power through green initiatives while striking a balance between sustainability and development. Finance, technology, and inclusive growth are all critical to its success. Instances launched in partnership with France, the International Solar Alliance encouraged the use of solar energy worldwide. Unveiled in 2019, the CDRI assist countries in developing disaster resilient infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you, Chetan Prakash. Uh, uh, about this is it's a bit of a narrative as to what India is doing. But this is a fellowship on geopolitics, diplomacy, etc. And you were talking about climate diplomacy. You have to explain first what is climate diplomacy, okay? And diplomacy, well, is not what is happening within your country, but with other countries, which you have basically the International Solar Alliance and all that, and collaboration with France, C20, all that basically you have mentioned. But there is hardly any analysis, number one. Uh, you have to basically also talk about the state of global uh, climate diplomacy at present. Okay, why are the COP the COP meetings ending in some kind of decisions which are never really carried out until it happens again at the next meeting. Um, the division between basically the United States, which has pulled out of the Paris Agreement in any case. And apart from that, uh, the Global South and the rest, all right, what is the difference? I mean, what India is doing fine. But why is it doing what it is doing? The UN and its mandate on climate, basically climate change, okay? So what is diplomacy involves two or more countries, okay? So what is India's position in this uh, uh, the debate on climate change that is happening? How it comes close to China, uh, and then basically go on into what basically India has done. Well, to promote, all right, uh, climate change. So, what is basically India's stand on climate diplomacy? About emissions, all right, on which there's so much about financing, all right, from the ones which are already developed, countries which are already developed, which basically are the creators of well. Uh, the problem, all right, climate change, all right, because of the industrialization, rapid industrialization which took place. So the global south does want to industrialize, all right, but it is doing it in a very different way, and India is kind of is a leader in that, all right. So it is transforming. So diplomacy is something else. Do analyze and bring in diplomacy, not just what has India done, uh, uh, a narrative of what India has done, okay, the alliances that it has. No, that's not diplomacy properly. Explain climate diplomacy, the difference between the global south and the global north, the COP issue, the debate, all right, who are with India on, well, it's what is his point of view on basically climate change, okay, what are which countries are with it. Here, in fact, China and India do come together, all right? Okay. And they've been coming together not just last month or this month, but well, from very early, well, a long back. The two have kind of similar views on climate change. So basically, talk about that, all right? Analyze. Analysis is missing in your paper, okay? So I hope to see more analysis when you've given your finished paper, okay? Do you understand, Chetan Prakash?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Would like to call Shri Gupta ji again.
I truly apologize for all the hiccups from my end. I'll finally start. Good afternoon, everyone. So my paper is basically going to be focusing on Trump 2.0, the current administration under Donald Trump, and its impact on the speculated bloc of Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. The reason for taking this up has basically been because this bloc is still more of a speculation than an entire alliance. But there has been considerable development with each of these in terms of their relations with each other as well as in relation with the Trump administration. So the first part of the paper will basically focus on the concept of crink, which is basically how does the bloc emerge in any situation if it does at all. So China as an economic powerhouse, Russia as a military superpower, also because of its oil and gas diplomacy. Then Iran as a regional power, considering the recent attack by Israel and America on it. And then North Korea, which hasn't had a very active presence as such with relation to the American administration, but it has time and again, considering when it was in the Kursk region during the active confrontation between Russia and Ukraine. And then again at the recent parade, which we saw 3 days ago, when Beijing invited all of the CRINC countries for a parade in a show of power. So first part of the paper just basically talks about the dynamics that these countries enjoy with each other in terms of the economic, ideological, and military sides, basically these three. And then we look at then we look at the current observations that have occurred. So throughout this administration, and could we move to the next slide? Thank you so much. So, beginning of the year itself, we saw North Korean forces in the Kursk fighting along the Russian forces. Then, of course, the deluge of tariffs and all of the executive orders which have come that bar China, that against China, against not, and then we saw the Oval Office meeting with Russia and Ukraine, wherein we saw that the economic side, the economic ties that America enjoys with Russia overtook the ideological divide for a bit, but then yet again the ideological divide has come to fore once again because of the recent meetings that we've seen during the SAO and the WW2 parade that happened just 3 days ago. Then, in terms of Iran, there has been the American attack on it, and to support Israel, which has actively antagonized Iran one more time, and has actively could be one of the reasons why it gets pushed towards the CRINC countries. So, when we look at these dynamics that these countries are currently that currently exist between the countries, the second part of the paper is going to be focusing on how Trump administration has dealt with these in countries individually in terms of the trade war with China, in terms of the cold and then hot and then cold again relation that it enjoys with Russia, including the Alaska meeting that happened and the implications of that, and then the very active confrontation on the 22nd of June itself with Iran, and the silent presence of North Korea, because North Korea hasn't exactly been involved with America in a very active phase, but it has shown its strategic presence throughout the year. What is the implication of that for America? So after this second part is done, then we move on to the third part, which would basically be there to analyze, and and we can move on to the next slide for this. Um, the main objective, basically, the next one. Thank you so much. The basic objective then would be basically to see, consolidating the first two parts of the paper to see if such a block will remain as mere speculation, or will it be further consolidated because of the what would be the collective or the aggregate impact of the Trump 2.0 administration on the speculated block. What would be the further potential trajectory of these countries with each other and with relation to the American administration that currently exists, where there is aggressive um, American nationalism that is being put out in the front, and that seems to be a priority for the Trump administration. And we'll see if it is the ideological divide that dominates, or it is the economic side that dominates more in these relationships, because especially in terms of Russia and America, and what it overall means for this bloc. Will such an bloc emerge, or if there is no bloc emerge, what is the strategic dynamic that would remain with relation to America and with each other within this speculated bloc itself? That would be the crux of all the arguments I would be making in my paper, or what I would be exploring in the paper. That's all. Thank you.
Actually, interesting, but it's very, very current, and it's the dynamics are changing every day. All right, so you'll have to basically be looking at things till you write your paper. Trump 2.0 is what should I say? It's a kind of maverick policy, all right, which this administration is following because. Well, they meet with Putin, and the next day they're not friends with Putin. They meet with the Ukraine, Zelensky, and then of course Zelensky is my friend. And again, I mean, I don't know. And this tariffs, the whole thing is, and when you talk about forming a bloc, now each of these countries, I mean, Trump 2.0 is, MAGA, make America great again. But America great again, it's fine. But, America first has always been there. So far as Russia is concerned, its foreign policy is Russia first. Okay. China is China first. North Korea is North Korea first. And national interest, of course, is the main driver of foreign policy in any case. All right. So, each of these countries, Iran too, all right, Iran has its own dynamics, where, of course, there is this religious element also which is there. Okay. It is called the USSR, all right, the lesser Satan, all right. America was the greater Satan. This was the lesser Satan. Now, of course, well, they get arms, military aid or military equipment from Russia. So basically, what you find is uh, uh, okay. So what you find is, well, things are changing all the time. So whether they will form a bloc, I mean, what we saw 3 days back, I mean, these three world leaders standing together, it was quite, well, uh, interesting, if one may use the word. Uh, I'm not going to use anything stronger than that. And of course, Trump's this thing was that India has been driven into the camp of Russia and China because of America. But it did not talk about North Korea. I don't think it mentioned North Korea at all, but North Korea is very much there. Now, what I would basically talk about is the equation. You're talking of it as a trick and all that, and I don't think it's ever going to be a block. But what I need to point out to you, I think in the beginning, talk about Trump 2.0 and its policies, all right, which are not very clear even now, all right. Uh, Tariffs are there, then they withdraw tariffs, all right, they lower tariffs, then they increase tariffs. So one really doesn't know exactly what Trump is going to do next. All right. Uh, Iran, the bombing of these nuclear facilities, it was completely a bit of a shock because it had not spoken about it, and in fact, it was not even. I don't know why it suddenly thought about it. I mean, this kind of a mission, all right, assessed to it. At that point of time, well, Iran held as this thing, it could have led to something much more strong. All right. So first talk about basically the maverick foreign policy followed by Trump, all right, and the reaction. Now, whether they will form a bloc or not is your speculation, all right. So, what is the basis of your speculation? You will get from basically Trump's policy, okay. Because the one thing that is driving these countries together, all right, you're looking at it that America has reacted to North Korean presence in Ukraine, soldiers, all right, but uh, well, at the same time, he's talking to Putin, he's talking to Zelensky, he's trying to, all right, do something. I mean, one really doesn't know. So basically, talk about Trump's policies in this administration and what impact it has had on what you call TRINC, all right? Okay. How close is Iran to these countries? Now, China, North Korea, and Russia. Uh, can come close together. But can Iran ever be very close to any of these countries? Okay, because of the kind of leadership they have, all right? They will have reservations. They would like a kind of, like India wants strategic autonomy. So Iran too would probably want strategic autonomy. They would like, you see, military help from them. But so far as other things are concerned, because their concerns are not, they're right next to Israel, they're right next to Gaza, all right? Their concerns are very, very different from those of these three countries, okay? Uh, so basically, I think talk about the geopolitics of the entire thing, analyze this, and you'll have a better paper, right? Uh, so it's very interesting, but you'll have to be following the news every day, all right, till you write your paper. Okay? Okay, Gauri, all the best.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Sri, it's not Gauri, Sri.
I would like to invite Mr. Satish Meherji. Satish Meherji, you can start presenting.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, is my slide visible?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My project is about harmonizing the IMEC, the India Middle East Economic Corridor, and India's strategic challenge in a fragmented regulatory landscape. So, what is IMEC, the India Middle East Economic Corridor? It is a strategic multimodal connectivity project announced at the G20 summit in 2023, which connects India, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel, and finally to the Europe. The aim of this project is to reduce the time and cost by 40 and 30% respectively while connecting India to Europe. And it intends to increase efficiency, reduce cost, and secure regional supply chains, and also generate jobs, and also which could result in a transformative integration of Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. So this is the proposed corridor, which starts from Gujarat and Mumbai in India, and by sea route to Jebel Ali port in UAE, and from there to through railway networks through Saudi Arabia and Jordan, and finally to the Israel's Haifa port, and then to Greece, and then to the whole Europe. So before telling about my focus areas, I want to just give a context about this project and what are the intentions of Indian government regarding this. So this is a statement by our Foreign Secretary in April 25, and These are the key points I have mentioned here. So the key points are like the Israel-Palestine conflict will not impact the plans for an IMAC. There is not necessarily an organic linkage between these two, and India's position on the two-state solution is a long-held position. And he goes on saying uh, the security situation impacts only certain areas at a particular point of time. It's possible to do work on this particular project in a distributed fashion. And the work is going to start imminently on connecting electric grids, which he describes as one of the major pillars of the IMEC initiative. And the security situation in the region makes it seem as if progress has frozen on the IMEC, but we have been working with select partners. These are three more news clippings from the meeting between our honorable president and Italy's and the Italy's vice prime minister. And here the statement goes like the India and Italy have decided to expand cooperation in areas of trade, defense, clean energy, and high technology while agreeing to work jointly in implementing the ambitious the IMAC corridor. And uh, these are two more clippings from from February 13th, 25, which shows the French statement, which says that Marseille will be the entry point for the whole European market, and IMEC will channel a lot of energy to Marseille. And there is also one more clipping where Dr. S. Jaishankar, our External Affairs Minister, who holds a meeting with the counterpart of Greece, where he also discusses on this IMAC corridor. And this is mainly my focus area, the harmonization of the IMAC corridor. And here, Mr. Damu Ravi, a senior external affairs ministry official, he says the mega projects of this magnitude would face challenges, but added that two main issues would be competition from similar projects such as BRI and homogenization of systems across partner countries. And the biggest challenge that could come in the way, apart from geopolitical issue, is harmonization. Harmonization in terms of regulatory standards, both technical and phytosanitary regulations, your transportation networks, taxation systems, that will take work. And these are finally my approach and the dimensions I'm going to explore. Starting with the first one, the regulatory standards, the technical and phytosanitary, the transportation networks, taxation systems, the role of a digital public infrastructure, multilateral coordination mechanisms, if there is any scope to establish a IMEC secretariat, and the private sector and logistical stakeholder engagement. And these are the approaches I'm thinking about exploring. The qualitative content analysis, which basically is like coding and interpreting diplomatic speeches and policy statements, and comparative corridor evaluation, like comparing with it the EU STANTI and the African CFTA and the BRI. And also, at last, also focusing on the conflict sensitive regulatory planning, like how these systems respond to disruptions and conflicts like the Israel-Palestine and the Israel-Iran or the Israel-Hezbollah conflict. So this is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Satish. Actually, the IMEC, it's a proposed project, but it has, I mean, there are all these, in fact, you were saying that you're going to do a content analysis of the speeches, because that's all there seems to have been so far. Speeches and speeches and speeches, because right after that, okay, the Palestine conflict, and you find that on the ground, uh, maybe they're talking about regulatory approaches and things like that. What they're talking about, they know best. But when it comes to laying the grid for uh, for the actual IMEC project, that is not there. The map is there, but it's very much in the future. All right, it's like I2U2, something like that. I mean, the proposed project, but now with basically Trump acting the way it is, well, one of the U2s, that is USA, the other is UAE. USA, I don't know how far they'll collaborate with India. Now, here, there's something wrong with your map too. I mean, it shows a whole lot of area of Saudi Arabia, which is not also Saudi Arabia, all right? Uh, you haven't shown Israel, Palestine, Iran, etc., which are very close, and those are danger zones in any case, all right? So basically, when this multimodal project passes through this area, all right, as such, uh, it will take a long time for it to pass through. But I'm glad that you're also bringing in the BRI, which is in progress. It is there, all right. IMEC has not started, all right, but BRI is very much there. And maybe when you're talking about the IMEC and the comparison with BRI, since one is a work in progress and the other is a work not in progress, all right. What are the measures that you would do about taxation, regulation? Is that what you're going to discuss?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay. I think, in fact, you should stick to that. All right. Uh, do a content analysis of the speeches, because that's all that there is. There's nothing on the ground, only the
Okay.
speeches. All right. So the content analysis in the first place, and the comparison with basically similar projects which are works in progress, and what are they doing. All right. So your suggestions will come from that. All right. How can
Okay.
basically the IMEC be better? Uh, well, more acceptable than the BRI, for instance, all right, uh, for goods and all that. Because otherwise, you see, BRI offers a lot, all right, uh, to participant countries, okay?
Yes.
Are we going to give the same kind of, concessions, etc., which the Chinese are ready to give? So basically, take a look at that, because there is nothing. It's only it's there as a part of our, what should I say? I mean, we are thinking about it, but nothing has come about it. Maybe it would have started, but even then it would have been a slow progress, okay,
Yes,
through
ma'am.
these countries. Okay, so uh, stick to content analysis and basically a comparison. Okay,
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would now like to call Gauri Gupta ma'am. Gauri Gupta ma'am, can you start presenting, please? She seems to not be there in the meeting. We'll move on to Anvita Pandeji.
Just a second, I'm just starting.
Sure.
Just 1 second, I'll be sharing my screen. Is it visible?
Yes,
Just
it is visible.
allow me just half a minute, just to put this on full screen. Yes, just okay. I don't think I'll be able to pull this on full screen. Okay, I'll just start without putting it on full screen if that's fine.
Yeah, that's all right.
First of all, I'd like to preface by starting, I'm a 16-year-old school student. So if there's any room for improvement, I'm more than willing to improve. And I truly look forward to learning from all of your professional experiences. My topic is law behind diplomacy, how international law shapes and challenges foreign policy. Let's start with what is international law. International law is a body of rules, principles, and norms governing relations between states and international actors. It ensures order, cooperation, and accountability in all global affairs. Sources of international law are treaties, customary laws, general principles, and judicial decisions. Domains of international law include, but aren't limited to, human rights, trade, environment, security, and diplomacy. Foreign policy, on the other hand, is a strategy a state adopts to safeguard its national interest and achieve its goals in interacting with other countries. This involves diplomacy, defense, trade alliances, and international negotiations. Now let's talk about the link between the two. International law sets the legal boundaries and normative frameworks within which foreign policy operates. Politics decides the what, and law defines the how. My methodology for this research is going to be qualitative research-based case study analysis. I'll be focusing on high-impact examples where law and diplomacy intersect. I've selected 3 cases: the Gaza conflict, where I'll be focusing on the enforcement gap in humanitarian law; Brexit and Northern Ireland Protocol, sovereignty versus legal obligations; and the US treaty withdrawals, which showcases the fragility of multilateral commitments. Starting with the first case, the Gaza conflict, the ongoing armed conflict has tested the rules of right to war and conduct in war. The legal dimension of this is that international humanitarian law prohibits targeting civilians at any cost. But the diplomatic reality remains: enforcement is weakened by geopolitical divisions and double standard. Law is often invoked symbolically, but is rarely enforced consistently. The Gaza case exposes the fragility of international law when power politics dominates. The second case is Brexit and Northern Ireland Protocol. When the UK exited from the EU, it triggered disputes over sovereignty and trade. The Northern Ireland Protocol became the central legal challenge. Basically, Northern Ireland, which is a part of the UK, shared a border with the Republic of Ireland, a sovereign country, which is a part of the EU. Now, the border had to become a hardened border because of the EU protocols. The Northern Ireland Protocol here became a central legal challenge. The protocol required customs check to preserve peace under the Good Friday Agreement, bound to the UK and to the EU rules despite sovereignty claims. The law acted both as a constraint limiting the UK's freedom and as a tool in shaping EU and UK negotiation. Legal commitments forced political compromise. Brexit showcases that sovereignty debates cannot escape international legal obligations. The third case study is US withdrawal from treaties. The US withdrew from several key agreements, including the Paris Climate Agreement. This signaled retreat from multilateralism. The Paris Climate Agreement is a voluntary pledge. It is not a binding enforcement. Withdrawal weakens global climate governance. The reality is, other states upheld their commitments, preserving the agreement's symbolic authority. This demonstrates that the law's role as a normative anchor, even without full compliance. The US withdrawal reveals both limits and resilience of international law. Now, when we talk about diplomacy and law and how they're intertwined, we have to focus on the mutual influence. International law sets boundaries of diplomacy, while diplomacy shapes the evolution of law. Law is a framework. Now, foreign policy choices gain legitimacy and predictability when they're anchored in law. Diplomacy, whether it's through treaties, negotiations, and even withdrawals, redefines norms and legal norms over time. The core insight is neither diplomacy nor law operate in isolation. Each is the mirror and architect of each other. The conclusion here is international law is not a silent referee, it is the stage on which diplomacy performs. Diplomacy without law is directionless, and law without diplomacy is lifeless. Together, they forge rules, limits, and possibilities of foreign policy. The future of global order will not be decided by power or law alone, but how effectively the two are woven together. Thank you. I would also like to thank the IMPRI team for their support and guidance throughout the fellowship and the professors. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anvita. That was a good presentation for a 16-year-old. Very much
Thank
so.
you so much.
You're the youngest so far, I think, in this fellowship program and all the fellowship programs. I don't know, have you come across any other younger person? Now, because you are still in school, all right, it's good. It's really very good. But you need to define international law. All right. Uh, uh,
Yes.
there are conventions which are multilateral conventions like CEDAW, for instance. All right. Which some of which are ratified by this thing and some which are not. Now, for instance, resolution on basically women, peace, and security. All right. 1325 of 2000 of the UN Security Council. That does not need ratification. That's a law which is applicable, all right, to the entire, all right, world, and it does not need ratification at all. It basically has certain norms, and then it's followed by 9 other, all right, uh, such resolutions, which also talk about rape as in war, all right, or protection of women and girls in war, all right. Uh, now,
Yeah,
these are not followed at all, although they're supposed to be there, very much there.
exactly. The enforcement,
So
yeah.
basically, international law. Now, there's another, like the ICC, all right, the International Criminal Court, all right. The US has not accepted that, it has not ratified the ICC,
Okay.
all right. So basically, why they do not want American soldiers to be tried, all right, or American generals to be tried in the International Court, Criminal Court, all right. They will do their own this thing. There are other countries which have not accepted the ICC too, all right. Even when it comes to the ICJ, do mention the ICC, there are different types of it.
ICJ,
That is
international.
international law. It is supposed to be there very much, but who accepts it and who does not? All
Absolutely.
right. So when it comes to, you talk about Paris climate, only US having withdrawn
Yes,
from
withdrawn.
climate talks. Or why did the League of Nations fail? Primarily because so many countries withdrew, and then Hitler went ahead and started the war. All right. So basically, international law fails when people do. I mean, when countries do not. They act in their own national interest. They act in their own interest, and they do not follow international obligations. All right. You're given a very good example of Brexit. All right, as such, the Good Friday Agreement. But that is international, definitely. All right. Uh, is Northern Ireland and basically is accepted by the UK, but it's a very limited local. All right, nobody else is supposed to be accepting it. All right,
Yes.
so it does not deal with other countries. Okay, but it's a limited. So you can have limited international agreements, laws. All right, okay. Uh, that's what I was thinking. I mean, when you were talking, whether we can bring in uh, the Good Friday Agreement, because it's an agreement, it's not really international law. Whether that is a good example, I mean, just rethink it. I don't think it
Sure.
comes here at all right?
Okay.
So there are different types, multilateral laws, which are conventions, which are of the United Nations, which are accepted by many, ratified by many, all right? There are countries which do not ratify certain of these agreements. The
Yes.
UNGA conventions, etc., they have to be ratified, all right? Okay,
Yes.
at the local level, and then they're accepted as international law, all right? The other, of course, is UNSC resolutions. Now, you're taking on Gaza, which is an ongoing conflict, and where, in fact, every human rights law, humanitarian law, laws of war,
Everything has been
everything has
violated.
been broken. All right, so good. I mean, you can just point that out that all these conventions are
Yes.
there, all these resolutions are there, all right, but yet, in fact,
Targeted
when a
civilian.
country wants to do something against the law, it really well goes ahead, and then there's nothing that the other countries
Can be
can
done
do,
about
can be done about it, primarily because the United Nations, which is the largest multilateral organization, does not have an army. It has to have.
it. Yes.
It does not have its own finances. It's the nation states which provide. All right, peacekeeping forces, etc. Okay, so unless all right, there is a kind of agreement. I mean, these things fail. Even when a country is powerful, I'd like you to but maybe you do not know. I mean, there was a time when, in fact, Nicaragua and the United States were at loggerheads, and why Nicaragua was leftist. Okay, now Nicaragua, all right, the USA actually put uh, mines in Nicaragua's harbor, and they blew up some ships. People were killed and all that, and Nicaragua took this to the ICJ. Now, basically,
Okay.
Nicaragua is a member, and so is the United States. Okay, and the ICJ ruled against the United States. But
Okay.
basically, nothing could be done about it. Why? Because who is going to bell the cat? The United States
Yeah.
was with the most important country. So international law can fail. You can take up little examples like that,
I
rather
will.
than taking on Brexit, which is not there. Okay, you can take on something akin to that and point out the different types of international laws which are there, all right, regulations and laws. You
Sure.
have the UN ones, you have things like the ICC, then you have, for instance, uh, there is this convention, the Refugee Convention, okay? But then you have regional conventions like the African. The AU
Yes.
has its own Refugee Convention, which is applicable only to Africa, all right? There is
Amen.
also a Latin American, all right, which is a convention. So that is applicable. But that is applicable, that's international law because Africa is made up of 54 countries, all right? So
Yes.
it applies to 54 countries international,
Yes.
all right, but it's not applicable outside. Okay. Then jurisdictions of a multilateral organization like the ICC. Okay.
Yes.
Nobody, Sudan's president was basically charged, but
Okay.
only if he comes out of Sudan can he
Can he
be
be arrested?
arrested. He cannot be arrested inside the country. So the limitations of international law, all right. Uh, International law is there. It's very humanitarian law is also there. But the thing is, you can break them um, punitively, and there can be nothing done about it. All right. So basically, when you're talking about international law, Gaza is a very good example of that. Okay. Take on also what are the types of laws? What is international law?
Yes.
You
Focus
explain
on
that,
conventions.
but explain it further because there are regional laws which are also international laws. There is multilateral conventions which are international laws, but only applicable to those. UNSC resolutions, which are also law, all right, these need not be ratified. They're applicable to every single country, all right, as such. Maybe you should also, instead of taking on Brexit and the Good Friday Agreement, maybe you should consider a comparison, all right, the 1991 uh, Iraq war
Okay.
and the 2003 Iraq war, which was
Yes.
not sanctioned by the UN.
Okay. We'll take that into consideration.
Just figure it out. And, read it yourself, you'll find it interesting.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you so much.
You get my point? Okay. Thank you, Anita. That was a very good attempt. And for a 16-year-old, I'm very impressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
We now move forward to a presentation by Gauri Gupta ji. Gauri Gupta ji, you can start presenting now.
Ma'am, I'll take 1 minute to. Can I go just next? There is some
Sure.
yeah, technical glitch. I'll
Sure.
just go.
I would like to invite Edwig ji.
Yeah. Actually, I can't start the video as I'm at a shared space. So is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm just sharing my screen. Yeah, is it visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Yeah, so good afternoon, Professor and everyone. So today I'll be presenting on the theme, is it security or separation? India's uneasy seat at the SCO table. So the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or the SCO, is one of the most influential regional blocs in Eurasia. It was created to fight terrorism, separatism, and extremism. But the question is, does it really ensure security or does it end up suppressing political dissent? So my presentation tries to answer this through India's perspective. Yeah, so coming to this, the SCO security narrative. The SCO was founded in 2001 by China and Russia, and today it has expanded to 10 members, including India, Pakistan, Iran, and Belarus. On the paper, its goal is clear, that is, collective security and stability across Eurasia. The centerpiece of this mandate is to fight against so-called the three evils of terrorism, separatism, and extremism. For this purpose only, it set up the RATS, that is Regional Anti-Terrorist Structure, that is based in Tashkent to coordinate drills and share intelligence. So at first glance, issue looks like a powerful security mechanism, but the reality is more complicated. So coming to my research objectives, my study sets out for 4 key objectives, that is to critically examine how SCO frames and implements the counterterrorism, to assess where India's own security interests align with or clash against the SCO's framework, to evaluate the normative dilemmas when the fight against terrorism shades into political suppression, and finally to explore India's balance, how India balances SCO's participation with other platforms like like Quad and BRICS. So coming to India's uneasy seat, this brings us to the case that India has often taken position at odds with the SCO majority. For instance, like it refused the BRI initiative, endorsed the BRI initiative because the China-Pakistan economic corridor violates India's sovereignty. Also in 2025, India rejected the Joint Defense Ministers' communique because the reference to Pakistan-backed terrorism were deliberately omitted. India insisted on naming cross-border terror, while others like China and Pakistan blocked that language. At the same time, India also benefits from SCO to its access to Central Asia and also to counter terror cooperation mechanisms. But this also comes at the risk of being associated with these authoritarian practices inside the SCO. So this is India's dilemma. It stays in the bloc for like pragmatism while trying to hold on to the principle of it. Next, coming to its challenges and paradoxes. The challenges are like the issue is dominated by China and Russia, and the Pakistan membership makes it difficult to reach a consensus on like terrorism and stuff. Also, the definition of terrorism remains vague and it is open to misuse. Now, coming to the paradox, India is the only democracy at the table which is dominated by authoritarian powers. It advocates sovereignty and rules based order, but it finds itself trapped in securitized narratives, as and where dissent is too easily labeled as extremism. So, coming to my approach, I mean, methodology. So, I have to address this. My study uses qualitative methods like comparing India's experience with SCO norms, analyzing official communiques from 2023 to 25, and focusing on case studies like the 2025 communique rejection right now, which has happened. Based on this, there are three policy recommendations for going ahead with this. First one is the voice. India should consistently push for clear definitions of terrorism and reject the double standards. Second is the coalition. It should work with smaller Central Asian states who also worry about being overshadowed by China. And then comes the balance. India must engage with SCO, but also deepen its ties with Quad, BRICS, and ASEAN, so its autonomy is never compromised. Coming to the conclusion, the SCO embodies both opportunity and as well as risk. It offers India a platform to raise its concerns on terrorism, but it also exposes India to norms of suppression and authoritarian practices. So India must walk a tightrope. It must fight terrorism, but without endorsing repression. So yeah, that's my conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ritwik. Interesting, limited study, but interesting. Uh, the thing is, first of all, I mean, you should introduce the SEO, why it was formed, when it was formed. Well, when it was formed, you have mentioned, but why it was formed. And basically, India and Pakistan both wanting to join the SEO for whatever reasons, okay?
Yeah.
They wanted to be part of it, especially India. What was Why did it want to join? What were its objectives in joining the SEO? Okay, it's not a very comfortable situation, as you said. Now, you said that this is the only democratic country. Okay, now if democracy is very broadly defined, countries that have elections like Pakistan, etc., they are also democratic countries. All right.
Yeah.
So maybe you should kind of amend that a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, apart from you have dwelled mainly on security and terrorism, okay?
Yeah.
But there are other dimensions too, all right? So basically take a look at that, all right? And outside the SEO, also there is collaboration with China. In fact, the most powerful powerful country in the SEO is China. China is the driver. Knowing all that, India wanted to join. So, what were its reasons for joining the SEO? Okay, it is China also knows that it opposes the BRI. All right, not only because it passes to Pakistan, but also other areas where it has its grave doubts. All right, it is encircling India. All right, so basically. It does not want. So, why does China want? I mean, why did China basically accept India's bid to join the SCO? All right. So basically, the geopolitics of the region has to be brought in. All right. What are the motivations of China and India, all right, largely.
Okay.
We're leaving aside Russia and North Korea, of course, does not figure over here. It figures to China, but it doesn't figure
Yeah.
with India at all, whatever. But basically, Pakistan. Now, uh, the very recent meeting, all right, this kind of
Yeah.
bonhomie which they're trying
Yeah.
to show. Somehow, they're just taking certain pictures out, all right,
Yes.
where Modi is laughing his way up. But the problem is, you see, uh, uh, in which language were they talking that all of you would understand a joke, all right? Uh, she, Putin understands English, of course. I mean, but I don't know. Frankly, they always have translators, and that is very
Yes.
evident in the car sharing between Putin and Modi, where both are
Yeah.
silent, sitting there. Okay. So basically, I mean, here is India, which wanted to join, which is joining. This is to show Trump, all right, as such that
Yeah.
okay, we have other friends, and so he goes there. Uh, so what was achieved? You're very right about that. ASEAN, BRICS, all right.
Yeah.
India plays a more important role in BRICS than it does here. There also is China, but India plays a more important role in BRICS,
Yeah.
in G20, etc., than it does in the SCO. It's very much in
Yeah.
the sidelines. So basically, a very uncomfortable situation. So what are its gains? All right. What
Yeah.
were its objectives in joining? And has it basically been able to achieve those, all
Okay.
right, objectives?
Yeah.
Maybe that will make it even more interesting, all right,
Yeah. Yeah.
rather
I'll
than
look
just
into that. Sure.
look into that. Okay. Okay, Tvik, that
Thank
was
you so
good.
much.
Thank you. Thank you.
We now have Vaishnavi Sharma ji.
So, am I audible to everyone
Yes, you are.
and visible to on the screen?
Yes,
Okay.
now you are.
Hi, Professor. How's it doing? Hello. Okay. So, I'm just sharing my screen. Please tell me if my screen is visible to you. Is it visible?
Yes, it is.
The PDF is visible on the screen, right?
Yes, yes. You can put it in presentation mode and go.
Okay. So, my topic is about the application of game theory in the South China Sea. And first of all, about the significance that why South China Sea. So, South China Sea has been a very important region because almost one third of the world maritime trade is passing through the region, and that trade values around $3.5 trillion of the global trade. Plus, it's the most busiest shipping lines for the whole world actually, and it's a most contested region which is being claimed by the seven nations which have their overlapping exclusive zones. Most importantly, we also have a PCA tribunal ruling also, in which the Philippines visited that, and they have been contesting over a region, and on that, on the same, the China didn't appear and it didn't even agree over it. So it's a very important region, and even it talked about the PCA ruling talked about that the insignificance of the 9 dash line. Okay. More to this, what is my research actually research objective? My research objective lies over that how I'm gonna apply. So I'm focusing on game theory and I've narrowed it down to the Nash equilibrium. So I'll be using the concept of Nash equilibrium in this. So via the Nash equilibrium model, I'll be examining the strategic choices, the powerful players in the South China Sea, and most importantly, we recently saw the current scenario where India and Singapore were together, and the Singapore offered for the patrolling in the Malacca Strait, which was a very unexpected move. So I wish to study that also. So basically, I have just narrowed it down to just 2, 3 cases, which I'll be focusing on, where I would be applying the Nash equilibrium model. And even the India-Philippines relationships has also been changed in this region. So coming back to the research questions, as I said, I'll be focusing on how the players balance assertiveness and restraints in this high stakes environment. I'll be focusing on the alliances also, that how they shape and they balance the rivalries in this region, what scenarios can trigger the conflict, and what can be the deterrents for the same. Okay. So the research gap which I would be focusing on is we usually talk about the major powers like the China and US, but we put less attention to the smaller players like ASEAN, India, and AUKUS in this region, basically. So I'll be focusing on the smaller players as well, and basically I'll be focusing on their cases only in this region, like 2, 3 cases which I mentioned, and obviously the alliance and the cooperation, and most importantly the joint strategies and the exercises which are being done here, they are somewhat ignored, so I'll be including them in my studies. And most importantly, my background is since mathematics honors, so as ma'am said to me, I should design my own model. So for the same, I would be focusing on Mathematica, where I'll be just giving a command, a code, and that would give me a 3D model for the same situation. Okay. Getting back to the methodology, I have directly included this definition from the Nash Equilibrium, the Nobel laureate person's document. I have just defined the definition here about the what is Nash Equilibrium about. It's about the strategy of the players in a particular region and their benefits, their payoffs, and I have tried to somehow depict a flowchart also, a flowchart, or maybe you can say a tree diagram on the screen about the Nash Equilibrium in the South China Sea, where I've just somewhat, crafted like this. The China is the aggressor here somewhat. US is showing the deterrence. India is somewhat hedging. ASEAN is somewhat leveraging the alliances, and no player, is gaining unilaterally from these alliances. Okay. So in the conclusion, the South China Sea stability depends upon the power dynamics, not just the treaties. So as we know, it's the most contested regions because of its economic and its social presence. So Nash Equilibrium will try to give me a more analytical mapping about this region, about this framework, which I'll be using in 2 or 3 case studies, and I'll be understanding the players and their strategies. So this was it. Thank you so much.
Vaishnavi, this was good. This is exactly what I wanted you to do. In any case, I mean,
Okay.
going ahead and that you have brought in the Nash equilibrium, which I really don't understand myself very well, but I'm very glad that you are doing it, and hopefully, reading your what you write, I'll understand basically what it is all about. But with mathematical models, and of course, I mean, in international relations and in political science and in sociology, these are very, very much acceptable, and well, at one point of time people were encouraged to in fact work on those lines. Okay, I was just wondering about
Yeah,
a
please.
couple of things. All right, okay.
Yeah.
uh, uh, Variables, all right, as such. uh, uh, Trump administration, you see, because what you're talking about, deterrence and all that, all right, it was very much there in the earlier administrations. But Trump, the second administration, we're not even sure exactly what he's going about. He is uh, uh, South Korea and Japan. All right, these both U.S. allies. All right, but he has kind of said that they're depending on the United States, and U.S. is spending money there. So so basically, can you bring in the present administration at a different level? I mean, have another this thing, you see, because we do not
Okay.
know. The other
Yeah.
is Japan, the role that it may play in the absence, all right, in your game theory, in the absence of US deterrence, all right, okay,
Oh,
or
okay.
uh,
Yeah, please.
because the US, the current administration wants Japan to play a more important role. All right. So what role can it play, given uh, its earlier stand, its earlier treaty obligations, etc. Okay. What role can it play? All right. If you can bring in that as a variable. All right. You are bringing in uh, the naval exercises, etc. Okay.
Yeah.
Which are
Yeah.
being held, which is very much there. But I am not too sure that these naval exercises have included the United States. Okay. Uh,
Okay.
in the past few months.
Okay. Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So take a look at that, because I'm not too sure. I haven't read about them. All right.
Okay.
That basically you read about them all the time earlier. All right. The US
Yeah.
participating also, okay, with Singapore and etc. But in recent times, since Trump has taken over, I don't know how many exercises have been held where the US has also been present, actively present. Okay, okay. Uh, so take a look at that. I mean, since that's your area, I'll be interested definitely. What
Okay.
role does actually you talk about AUKUS, Quad? Uh, now, I don't know. I mean, frankly, again, this the indeterminate future of these. All right.
Yeah.
So that's why I said just bring in some variables in your calculations.
Okay.
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 Right. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's a wonderful, I think, wonderfully done paper, but bring in certain variables. Okay, Vaishnavi.
Yeah. Noted,
I'd like
ma'am.
I'd like to see the end product. That's it.
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much, ma'am, for your feedback.
Thank you.
I would now like to call Vaibhadavji.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir, you are visible.
And my screen?
No, your screen is not visible. You can share it once again, please. Now it is visible, yes.
So shall I start?
Yes, you can start.
Okay. Very warm good evening to everyone present here. Today, I present the core idea of my proposed research titled Reimagining India's Central Asia Engagement Strategic Possibilities in Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. The choice of this topic reflects both its contemporary urgency and its relative neglect in Indian foreign policy studies. The motivation arises from five interrelated concerns. The first is historical marginalization. India's engagement with Central Asia has historically been characterized by ambitious rhetoric but weak follow through. From the Look North policy of the 1990s to the Connect Central Asia policy of 2012, successive initiatives have lacked the financial and institutional commitment necessary to match those of China and Russia. This shortfall eroded much of the goodwill India enjoyed in the immediate post-Soviet period. Second is the contemporary realities. The current geopolitical realignments create opportunities for course correction. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has disrupted traditional energy and trade flows, while China's Belt and Road Initiative has created both infrastructure linkages and debt-related vulnerabilities. Against this backdrop, Central Asian states are actively seeking diversified partnerships that preserve sovereignty while enabling economic growth. This presents India with a strategic opening to present itself as a credible alternative. The third is the strategic resources. Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan represent two of the most significant Central Asian states in terms of resources, demographies, and geopolitical relevance. Kazakhstan, with nearly 30 billion barrels of proven oil reserve and over 40% of global uranium production, is indispensable for India's energy security given its dependence on imports for over 85% of crude oil needs. Uzbekistan, though less resource rich, offers a vital partner in counterterrorism and cultural diplomacy. Fourth is the economic potential. India's current economic presence remains limited. India's trade with Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan stood at just $1 billion and $756 million, respectively, in 2023. In stark contrast, China's trade volume with the region crossed $66 billion in 2024, reflecting both India's underperformance and the untapped potential of these partnerships. Fifth is the security imperative. Central Asia constitutes what Indian strategic thinkers term our extended neighborhood, a region whose stability and orientation directly impact India's security and prosperity. This geographic positioning makes these nations natural partners in India's quest for strategic autonomy and multipolarity. Given this backdrop, this research has pursued three interconnected objectives. The first one is to analyze the historical foundation of India's relation with Central Asia and assess their present relevance. The second is to conduct a comparative study of Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan in terms of political, economic, and security partnerships. The third is to propose evidence-based implementable recommendations for enhancing India's engagement with these two countries. Methodologically, the research combines historical analysis, comparative case study approaches, and policy evaluation. Primary sources such as government statements, bilateral agreements, joint communiques, and multilateral declarations are being analyzed alongside secondary sources, including scholarly works by Nirmala Joshi, P. Stobdan, and Ajay Patnaik, to name a few, as well as think tank and news reports. Quantitative trade data and investment statistics are being also integrated to ground the study empirically. The study has identified four major themes shaping India's engagement. The first one is energy and economic cooperation. Kazakhstan's uranium export already supply nearly 80% of India's requirements, and ONGC Videsh has investments in Kazakh oil. Yet, over-reliance on energy makes this relationship fragile. This research is examining diversification possibilities, including pharmaceuticals, IT, and agricultural cooperation. Second one is the security convergence and limitations. Terrorism threats, particularly from Afghanistan-Pakistan region, create shared security concerns. India's cooperation within SCOs, RADs, and bilateral exercise like KAZIN with Kazakhstan and DUST like with Uzbekistan are being analyzed as frameworks for deeper collaboration. The third one is connectivity deficit. India's lack of direct border makes connectivity the Achilles heel of engagement. The International North-South Transport Corridor and Chabahar Port initiatives are being assessed for their potential to reduce costs and delivery times, alongside obstacles like infrastructure gaps and financial integration. The fourth is geopolitical competition. The influence of China's Belt and Road Initiative and Russia's security umbrella is being studied to understand the strategic balancing space available to India. Now, these are the five areas that I'm working on to develop a multi-pronged strategy for India's Central Asia engagement, namely diversified economic engagement, cultural diplomacy and soft power, connectivity and infrastructure development, enhanced security and defense cooperation, and institutional innovation. So these are the areas that I am currently exploring to give recommendations on. In conclusion, this research aims to contribute both academically and practically by disaggregating Central Asia into country-specific contexts. It aims to offer policymakers nuanced insights for differentiated strategies. Policy recommendations presented here aim to move beyond aspirational rhetoric, offering implementable measures for economic diversification, connectivity, and soft power. The expected outcome is the creation of a roadmap that enables India to bridge its trade gap with Central Asia, deepen security cooperation, and leverage its unique cultural assets. Ultimately, the research envisions India emerging as a credible, long-term partner in Central Asia, one capable of balancing great power competition, fostering regional stability, and advancing its own strategic and economic interests. So that is all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Vaibhav. That was interesting, particularly, but there's a lot of work which has already been done in this area. You could contribute even further if you looked at the material from Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. I'm sure there must be on the internet, all right, as such, their government findings, or basically, what they think of India. I mean, take a look at their official statements, all right, as such, okay, which of course will be full of platitudes and all that. But whatever it is, I think just looking at uh, India and the kind of figures, etc., the analysis which our Indian uh, academics as well as basically the MEA puts out is not enough. You have to look at from the other side. I mean, because uh, they are what? I mean, since China invests so much in them, all right, the BRI, all right, is also very much there. Uh, they would obviously be drawn more towards China, all right, as such, rather than, except that basically these are Islamic countries, and China has problems, all right, with the Uyghurs and all that, all right, who do go across. So apart from that, so far as economic is concerned, there is, all right, much more bonhomie between these two states and China than there is between, because we invest much less. And not only that, uh, we promise a lot when we meet, but whether we carry through is something which is very different, all right, number one. Secondly, when you talk about the historical background and all that, you were talking about, going back to the Silk Route and all that, the Mughal times, etc. But what should be remembered that in modern times, this area was part of the USSR, right? So taking them as individual countries was, well, in fact, we had very good relations with the USSR, all right, with the Soviet Union. Uh, but these were not individual countries, all right, they're part of the socialist republics, okay? In fact, meetings were held, that said, uh, 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 basically in some of these areas, but then they were never considered as separate. And I don't think anybody ever imagined that there'll be separate countries. So basically, there was no attempt to, develop that way. Do we have good relations with, in fact, I mean, that kind of, economic or trade relations with post-Soviet countries, even in Europe? All right. So, not really, because these were all part of the USSR, and it will take time to develop. All right. Uh, but here, this is actually, these are neighboring countries, and there should be connectivity. You're very right about that. All right. Secondly, there should be more investment. There should also be more understanding. All right. Regarding these countries. All right. They are not, the governments are very different from our government. All right. But there should be understanding. Uh, about their governments and all that, and working with that. If you are thinking in terms of counterterrorism, trade, you see, uranium, as you said, is one of the key things. Uh, Natural gas, okay, oil, all that, all right, are very important. So basically, keeping these in mind, what exactly is the strategy that should be followed? All right. Um, I'm sure you are aware that we do have student exchanges, and we
Yes,
do have Indian professors going there, trying to build up the university and things like that. That part is there, but that's only very limited. All right. And who do we send? People who don't even understand the language. All right. So they know only English. Some of them do. All right. But most of them don't. All right. Those who go there. So, and the students that are sent here, because in Jadavpur University we had a couple of students from Uzbekistan who could not really follow any of our lectures because they didn't know the language. So when it comes to connectivity, there should also be, maybe there should be language connectivity. All right, we should take that into account, because to have a better understanding of other countries and they having a better understanding, we should have a common, where we can understand each other and
yes,
not misunderstand each other that way. Okay, so if you can bring these in, all right, a little bit. I mean, it's a good paper, very doable, and in fact, take a look at their sources also, more than anything else. All right, and I'm sure it's available. Everything is available on the internet. You won't get too much. Again, you'll have a language problem, I suppose, but then you have Google Translator. Okay, so do that.
uh,
Okay, right?
thank you for the
Right. Right.
Thank you, sir. Now we move on to Gauri Gupta ji.
Yes, ma'am, I'll present now.
Sure.
Yeah. Ma'am, is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Ma'am, can you please, can you see the full screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, should I go ahead with my presentation?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, ma'am, my topic is governing the deep, a critical analysis of the policy gap in the deep sea mining and the ocean sustainability. So, my presentation starts with saving the sea, the importance of protecting our oceans. Now, moving on to the second slide. So, this is the title, Governing the Deep, a critical analysis of policy gap in deep sea mining and ocean sustainability. So first of all, what is deep sea mining and how would it be done? So deep sea mining, it aims to retrieve the valuable mineral deposits which are found on the ocean floor and hundreds or even thousands of meters below its surface. Alongside a diverse array of marina life, these critical minerals, they lie, which includes the cobalt, nickel, zinc, silver, gold, and the rare earth minerals. In the deep sea, these minerals are contained within slow-forming potato-sized polymetallic nodules. They are also found in polymetallic sulfides, which are large deposits made of sulfur compounds and other metals that form around the hydrothermal vents and the metal-rich crust on underwater mountains. So these are called the seamounts. While there has been commercial interest in these minerals for decades because of the semiconductors. So recent advancement in technology have made it feasible to mine these areas by sending vehicles down to harvest mineral deposit from the seafloor. I'll show you in the next picture. I think this is a little blur one, but it highlights where are the areas where countries are investing in deep sea mining. These reflects the Clariel Clipperton zone and then Indian Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, and even in the Atlantic Ocean and the Indian Ocean side. Now moving on to the seconds, yeah. So this is how deep sea mining works. When we send those technologies for taking out the minerals from inside the under the water deep sea, so they actually affect a lot of marine ecosystem, and because of uh, that they release a lot of greenhouse gases, the toxic gas emissions, the CO2 emissions, and that actually disrupts the seabed habitat, and it also affects the geochemical impact and the ocean organism, and it also decreases the oxygen supply in the water. So because of that, uh, there is always a hole in even in the seabeds, and many aquatic animals, they die off because of these things. Now we'll move on to the next slide, where I will highlight that we do have legal frameworks for the sustainability of ocean, for protecting our oceans, which includes the governance of ocean sustainability and deep sea mining. The first one is the international law and the United Nations Convention on the Law of Sea, the UNCLOS, which was established in 1982, and it highlights the principle of the common heritage of mankind. While there was another one which is the International Seabed Authority, the ISA. It oversees the mineral extraction in areas beyond national jurisdiction, uh, beyond the EEZ, which we say exclusive economic zones. And it was highlighted in under the article only under the Convention of UNCLOS. And complementing this, the biodiversity, yeah, complementing this, the recent one was the biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction agreement, which was a very recent one, just 2 years back, 2023. And many, because of seeing the gaps of regulating the marine genetic resources, uh, they have established this BBNJ agreement under UNCLOS, but many countries have ratified it and have become signatory to it. But there has always been a quest for critical minerals. So countries are investing more on technology so that they can take control over the oceans. Let's move on to the next slide, where I'll show you the global participation of, um, which is continent wise of the PBNJ agreement in the recent years 2025. As we can see, the number of countries of Europe, they have become they are the highest which have become signatory to BBNJ agreement. But and even America, which involves more of their technology, especially in the oceans. The countries in America, they have the maximum countries have not ratified it, and it has impacted lot of the division which we say the global south and the global north. Because of the global north, the advancement, the global south countries are getting impacted. Now moving on to the next slide, which is the impact of ocean pollution. So first one is the loss of marine biodiversity. So over 80% of marine pollution, this stems from land-based sources such as plastic, chemicals, and untreated waste. And estimated of 1 lakh marine mammals and turtles, they die annually due to plastic ingestion and entanglement. Then deep sea mining, they destroys fragile ecosystem of them, threatening the species found nowhere else on earth. The second one is the microplastic and heavy metal contamination. During their extraction, we contaminated their biodiversity, their ecosystem, so it has a lot of impact on their health. And then the third one is oxygen depletion and the habitat destruction. So because of that, the fishing stock, it has reduced by 30% in many areas. The sediment plumes from deep sea mining, they have smothered benthic habitats and disrupted reproduction and feeding grounds. The economic losses and food security, the ocean pollution and ecosystem collapse has caused annual losses of USD 13 billion, which has impacted fisheries, tourism, and coastal economies. Over 3 billion people, they rely on fish for nutrition and income. The deep sea mining have threatened their access to these resources. So now moving on to the next slide, the current state of the ocean. So while we were exploring the mining to test the equipments, they at a small scale, the deep sea mining has not been undertaken commercially, but some national government and mining companies, they plan to begin it as soon as possible. A few countries which have already approved permit to explore minerals in their own domestic waters, known as the EEZ. However, most deep sea mining, the interest is concentrated in the international waters. This means the industry's future will largely hinge on the ISA, and they will be the only people who will be given the responsibility to regulate it. But there is a problem in the ISA. These things are only controlled by the north north countries, and so it depends on them how they deplete the environment, and they have the only major authority. They are not including the global south countries which are getting affected. As we can see, the main case goes to Africa, and some are looking to forge ahead anyway. In March 2025, the Canadian mining company, the metals company, they have announced that through a US subsidiary, the metals company US LLC, they had begun the process of applying for licenses and permitting the under US National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration mining code, known as the Deep Sea Hard Mineral Resource Act of 1980. It was also it was an amendment in the UNCLOS 1982, and hence the US is not an ISA member and is not bound by its processes. So I don't know how much role it will have about this announcement, about the amendment which it is talking about. And in July 2025, a request was made for the ISA Secretariat to investigate whether deep sea mining companies, they are applying for licenses and permits under United States mining code are at risk of violating the existing ISA exploration contracts. The UNCLOS prohibits unilateral mining activities, and mining companies may have exploration contracts revoked if found to be violation of this. but there is always a policy gap. We see that the frameworks are existing, but nothing is working on paper. Nothing is working in practical. Everything is on paper. So, with serious questions which are still answered, what comes next? So, with the previous meeting, they have failed to reach an agreement that ISA was due to finalize regulations for a commercial mining in July 2025. However, the council was unable to reach a consensus, and negotiation they will renew in 2026. When regulations are eventually finalized, it is crucial that they fully consider the following key questions and the knowledge gaps, which I would highlight in through my dissertation. First one is, what are the potential social and economic impacts of deep sea mining? Is it possible for the industry to be advanced in a way that meets the UNCLOS goal of fostering sustainable economic development, international cooperation, and equitable trade growth for all countries? The second one is, how can a circular mineral company be further developed to lessen the need for environmentally intrusive practices? More research must be conducted into land-based and urban mining practices to improve their efficiency, as well as into improving product design to reduce demand for and increase recycling of critical minerals. The third one is, what regulations could be developed to ensure that the financial benefits from deep sea mining operations, should they occur, are equitably distributed among nations. Finally, for the exploration of deep sea mineral resources to continue, regulations should be transparent and collaborative, with participation from interested parties and key stakeholders, including the ISA members, mining corporation, and scientists. The regulation needs to be backed by science and other forms of knowledge, and it should be enforceable and it should be accountable. Now moving on to the, one second. Yeah, so moving on to the, yeah, these are the policy gaps. First one is fragmented regulatory frameworks. The UNCLOS and ISA, they provide foundational rules, but they lack specificity and environmental thresholds and enforcement mechanism as well. The second one is insufficient scientific data, because the thing is, they like some countries, they have limited exploration, and for understanding this, they are not involving media and journalists to interfere in this. So the assessment and the data what we get is only through the some of the global north countries who explore that area. And the third one is weak enforcement and accountability, because uh, most of the heading headquarters or the heading positions, they are handled only by the global north countries. So they don't take action on the basis of which is beneficial for all over the world. And the fourth one is the neglect of the socio-economic equity. Fifth one is the divergent national interest. For some countries, the critical minerals are very important. For others, it might not be. So, because of the national interest, there is always a policy gap, and there is always a quest for the resources. Now, so every effort counts, and this would be the my last slide. And together, we can ensure a healthy ocean for future generations. So that, because I read a proverb which is like, we we don't owe land, we borrow it from our next generations. And so I think it is our effort which counts. So in that way, we should take a lead and help as much as we can work in this dimension, so that it can be reflected at the global level. Thank you.
Thank you, Gauri. That was an interesting presentation. Uh, but as you said, little is known about deep sea mining, and it's only some countries of the global north, all right, who have the technology. So the technology gap is also there, uh, very much, but also there's a lack of knowledge about what is available where, and we do not have the technology to go very, most countries do not have, all right. Some companies in the United States and Canada, they can, all right, uh, basically explore, but this exploration costs a lot, number one. Technological innovation, etc., that also has to be there. Uh, the infrastructure has to be there, and the money, the funding for that has to be there. All right. Uh, so basically, you have also given a map about where these are happening. Uh, but which countries, all right, which countries and what companies are doing this, all right? Uh, Mainly American and Canadian, right? And very few are actually involved so far. I can't hear you. Please go
Chinese
ahead.
are also Chinese are
The
also
Chinese have also started,
yeah.
okay. I mean, critical rare earth
Critical
minerals,
minerals,
etc., when
yeah.
it comes to that, okay.
They are many. They are. That's why we have in Indian Ocean this this the
Yeah, Indian
yeah
Ocean is not all that deep, so they can really reach.
yeah.
Pacific Ocean is way, way down. So basically, it's more difficult to reach there. And in fact, probably the Pacific Ocean is much more rich in these
Yes.
minerals and rare earth minerals, critical minerals, and all that. But you
Ma'am,
also talked about
also,
gold.
Pacific Ocean has most number of volcanoes. So,
Volcanoes, which is always regenerating all these kind of minerals, right?
yeah,
Okay. Also, the depth, as they say, there's this primordial soup, 30,000 feet uh,
yes,
uh, below. I mean, where life is supposed to, according to some generation and all that. So that area is very rich in minerals. Okay. Now, but it's very difficult to reach. Now, you see that the deeper you go, the pressure becomes more.
yeah.
So you need that kind of technology to go down, the kind of capsules which are needed, which don't get crushed. You know, so that is there. So very few countries can do this. Now, you're saying that the UNCLOS does not have. When in 1982, people didn't even think about, you see, I mean,
Yes.
deep sea mining, all right? They're thinking about the EEZs, all right? They're not really thinking of international
Territorial
waters which are
waters, the
so deep
division.
and where they can. And the idea of rare earth minerals or critical minerals, that itself was not there. With AI, this is becoming more and more important, all right? I mean, with development, things are going faster and faster and faster, okay? So it is required. China, United States, and Canada. Uh,
Russia as well, ma'am. As soon as they have started taking some of the European countries after annexation of Ukraine, they have started their drill in the Arctic region.
in the Arctic region, yeah. In the
Yes.
Arctic region, yeah, I read about that. But
And
it's
after that,
nearby.
Finland and Sweden, they have also joined this NATO, and they are also building their headquarters, Mikle, which is very near to Russian like border,
So
so that they
basically,
can
I think you can
trade.
bring this into your paper. Which are the countries? What is the geopolitics of these countries? And basically, there is this huge knowledge gap and finance gap.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Absolutely.
So that should also be highlighted. Other countries. So when it comes to having a new, all right, a convention or basically regulations regarding deep sea mining and the potential problems, all right, which they can cause, all right. So, which are the countries that we are thinking about? Now, these are countries which United States did not sign the UNCLOS, right? It
Yeah.
did not ratify it. Okay, so these are countries which, in any case, all right, some of them are they don't bother about international law in the first place, and secondly, well, they have not even ratified the existing conventions. All right, so when you're talking about that, okay, it bothers small Pacific countries, it bothers others, okay. Uh, Again, partly, how much do they think about the sea and its environment? Of course, some do, environmentalists do, but they also think that basically uh, uh, they're getting critical minerals which we cannot get. All right. I mean, they are accessing it. All right. Uh, but it's very difficult. It's very difficult even for them. All right. Even for them to kind of, reach how much can they get. All right. I mean, nobody knows exactly what is available, how much is available down there. All right. We speculate, but there is no exact figures or anything like that. Okay. Uh, uh,
Ma'am,
there are
also there is one thing which most of the time it is very cold in US and the Pacific Oceans. I don't know whether they are
It's not only just cold,
in,
it's the pressure. You know, you really have to go deep,
yeah,
and you need the kind of vessels which won't be crushed by the pressure. You know, even when you're diving deep, all right, you do feel the pressure on you, right? The lower down you go. I mean, those who know swimming, I mean, will realize that, you feel the pressure and you want to come up, all right, on your lungs. Even if you're in a capsule, all right, which is going down and down and down, if they don't have the features that won't be crushed by the pressure of the water, right? Uh, so basically, technology. There's a technological gap, there's a funding gap, there's knowledge gap. All
yeah,
right.
there is
So maybe you
everything.
should point all these out. And basically, the countries that you're talking about, I mean, I was thinking mainly America and the United States and China, but that Russia, Finland, etc., were involved. I really had no idea in the Arctic. All right. I
No,
mean,
yeah, in Arctic they have actually I was writing one, I don't know, I forgot also the topic what I was writing, but it was something like it happened in, I guess, July or maybe first week of August. So it was like Finland, they are building their headquarters near Mikkeli. Mikkeli is a place in Finland, which is just 200 kilometers from Russian border. So, because nothing was going on, they were not reaching to a ceasefire agreement between Russia and Ukraine war. So they were feared that Russia might enter into Europe as well. So yeah, and they might take over the Arctic region and all. They're
Arctic
very
region.
much, yeah, very much interested
Yeah,
in
I
that.
read about Russia and the Arctic somewhere, but a different context, not in search of, critical minerals and all that.
Yeah,
But I think you should bring this into your, the country specific. You've given some companies and all that, but the geopolitics involved also.
sure, ma'am.
Maybe
I'll
bring that
include.
in also. Okay.
I'll include.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
Gauri. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. With this, we come to an end with today's presentations, and with great gratitude, I invite Professor Sanjukta Bhattacharya ji to give some closing remarks for this session.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure actually listening to these young minds thinking of new topics, innovative topics. And it's really been an interesting afternoon listening to them, all right, how they're developing. Some of them are really, really, in fact, I shouldn't say some, all of them have a lot of potential. And I'm looking forward to, their final, when they do finish their work, all right. Thank you very much. Okay. Uh, there's somebody who wants to, Harsh
Yes,
Bera.
ma'am, we have a new presenter. Harsh ji, you can start presenting.
He's just joining as a panelist. Start.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Oh, okay. I will just share my screen. Yes, ma'am. Is it visible, ma'am?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay. Yeah. So, good evening, ma'am. My name is Harsh Bora, and today I want to talk about the topic of India Middle East Europe corridor versus the comparative development between and the BRI of the China, the Belt and Road Initiative. So, both of these projects, if I have to talk about, the BRI is a very old initiative, whereas the IMEC is a very recent one. So within this context, before I dive into a complete deep down analysis of the both, I want to discuss why the BRI was started in the first place. So uh, for this, I have to go to the background of the 2000s and the late 2000s when the China was a very emerging global power and was on the forefront of challenging the USA hegemony. So within this context, the China wanted to establish its control over the Indian Ocean, and the Indian Ocean was majorly that is the controlled by the India with its almost artificial military base at the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, whereby it controls the Strait of Malacca, which acts as a choke point basically. So the China, in order to counter all of this, that is the strategic development and the strategic autonomy that is exercised by the Indian Ocean, established and initiated this Belt and the Road initiatives in the 2013, whereby it it developed various corridors via Pakistan and Nepal, and aim to reach even to the Middle East, and the counter basically is the India and the India's power in the Indian Ocean. So BRI, if I have to talk about, it basically involves the certain corridors such as the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, whereby the corridor starts from the Kashgar-Xiangjin region in China to right to the Gwadar port in the Pakistan. In even August in 2025, the China and the Pakistan have agreed to expand the CPEC project, whereby in the and CPEC project, another one corridor which is in the Nepal region, whereby the China is trying to enter into the Nepal and thereby further into the Bangladesh region and thereby entering into the Indian Ocean region. And one is another, and the another one is at the Hambantota project, and the Hambantota, the control over the Hambantota project via the debt financing over these small nations, because the China's that is the strategy is mainly to that is debt finance these smaller nations and to cover such projects which are not very economically sound for the host nation, but at the same time, that is the helps to establish China in a very much firm position in these host nations. So, in order to counter this, India has also started. India has also entered into this whole initiative, and it has also established its own IMEC project, whereby the India tries to establish the counter this BRI project by establishing control with the Middle East and the Europe particularly. So the main objectives of my study will be how do BRI and the IMEC embody the competing visions of the globalization, and what is the role of the middle powers, Middle Asian powers like the UAE, India, and the other that will be transparent in this whole journey. And while the BRI deepens the China's influence, IMEC, as it seems as of now, emphasizes the diversification, democratic values, and the various focus on the sustainable energy integration as well. So how it is going to roll out and how it is going to play out. So my objectives would be that, and for that, my methodology would be like a comparative policy analysis of BRI and the IMEC, and the using the trade data and the multilateral policy documents, as well as the secondary research project of the various scholars who are constantly writing about the future prospects, as well as what the China's Asia dream is, and as well as what EU and the US is going to play out in the Indian Ocean region. So what I have been able to find out and what my analysis is that there are mainly 4 points where we can basically focus for this broad analysis of this both of the corridors. One would be the financing. So within this context, the BRI is far ahead than IMEC. While BRI has gained around $1 trillion since 2013, the IMEC has only able to garner the support of $20 billion. Another would be the economic model as well as the governance model. So while BRI focus on a centralized top-down approach, while Beijing has its dictatorship power, the AMEC, as seems as of now, is a very transparent private sector collaboration, public-private sector collaboration kind of initiative. And while the economic models of the BRI prioritizes scale and the development, uh, ranging from the pipelines in Central Asia to the railways from the China to Europe, the IMEC, as of today, positions itself as a multi-modal alternative. Sea routes are from India to UAE. Rail linkages are there from Saudi Arabia and the Jordan. And before reaching Europe, it also tries to incorporate the Israel and the Palestine region while establishing control over the Haifa port, which is also that aim to develop into green hydrogen port and the corridor, which would be the crucial for the future sustainable and the energy security and the integration. And last but not the least, we should not forget about the geopolitics, as whole of this game is about the economics as well as the geopolitical uh, strengthening as well as the diversity. So while BRI only establishes China's and the China's string of the pearl strategy, IMEC tries to diversify itself by also incorporating the BRICS plus regions, especially the Middle East as well as the African regions, and whereby it challenges to counterbalance the Beijing by incorporating most of the Middle Eastern oil producing as well as the Gulf powers, such as it also trying to play out the its own sphere of the influence in the OPEC region, whereby it tries to they regulate the oil power. So IMEC is also trying to expand this influence over there. So what I am able to find out, I have to summarize. So my whole of the findings suggest that there are maybe 2 points whereby this whole comparative analysis can be made. First would be the dominance versus the alternatives model, and second will be the Middle East as the pivot point. So in the short term, while we understand that BRI will definitely remain dominant because it has almost 165 participating countries in that. But in the long term, I believe that with the expansion of the BRICS and the BRICS Plus, IMEC will definitely try to challenge this corridor, and it will signal a shift towards the coalition-driven multipolarity, as we all gonna see between the India and the Europe and the US initiative. As well as I also believe that Middle East will definitely hold a pivot point in that, because Middle East in both of the corridors is a strategic hub, uh, may it be the Gwadar port or it be the UAE Haifa port, or the in the IMEC corridor. So I definitely believe that that there will be a geopolitical resurgence of the Middle East, and there should be a focus on the development of the Middle Eastern nations, as we are not finding it currently in the present global world order. So what I can conclude. So in conclusion, I believe definitely that connectivity is the new geopolitics, as well as I believe that this infrastructure will never be a neutral, and it will definitely be political. Whoever built the roads and the railways will also shape the future map of the power. And within this context, there should be a safeguard for the smaller states, as well as there should be transparency as well as the complementarity between the IMEC and the BRI, and there should be also focus on sustainability. So within this context, my research will drew on works by Callan, Summers, as well as the Marquet. And within this reports and projects, I will try to figure out a way and develop a comparative analysis between both of them. Yes, ma'am. That will be the end for this presentation. I will look forward to your recommendation.
Thank you, Harsh. This is interesting. You may have been here when there was another participant who was actually presenting on the IMEC. I mean, BRI had come in tangentially, but here you are actually comparing BRI and IMEC. So, in fact, they're two different, but there is a lot of similarity, except that you are doing content analysis. Now, so far as the IMEC is concerned, it has not yet taken off because of the problems in the Middle East in the meanwhile. And just like I too, you too, that also. And there are, apart from the Middle East presenting challenges, all right, because it's a very unstable area. Uh, I'm not even going to say it's fragmented or anything like that. You don't know the future of Palestine. We have good relations with Israel, with Saudi Arabia, with Iran. We had, but there are issues. If they are going to be at loggerheads, how do you build? All right. Now, even the port that Chabahar, all right, which we were trying to build, now that does not have sufficient funding, which is not there. So basically, when you're talking about BRI and IMEC, there's a world of difference between the two. Uh, well, this is a late starter, which has not started yet. All right. BRI, quite a bit. It's a work in progress, and quite a few countries. All right, BRI basically is the Chinese have succeeded, and you're very right. It's state funded, and China has a lot of money. State has a lot of money. So here private public kind of partnership, which has its limitations. Okay, and we don't have the kind of funding which they have. Now, the other countries which are supposed to be helping out and all that, I mean, so far they are quiet because of the Middle East. So maybe, in fact, it's a great project, but I think you bring in the challenges and, you bring in your conclusion as speculation rather than conclusion, all right? Because you really do not know if the project is going to get through, all right? Finally, all right? What will be the shape of the Middle East? What will uh, finally take place? And this is also very limited, all right, from India through, some countries in the Middle East and all that. It goes all the way to Europe, all right? Uh, uh, Also, you're talking about governance, uh, and here too, of course, there's a lot of comparison. But since IMEC has not started, we do not know. There's a lot of speculation about regulations, about taxation, about the way it's governed. It's a public partnership, public-private partnership. So the governance itself will be this thing. So bring in the challenges of the IMEC, all right, as compared to that way. The other thing that you can also bring in, or you can change this, tweak it a little bit, all right? Bring in how India plans to counter. IMEC is not the only one. I2U2 is another one. It has its ocean strategy also, all right? So basically, you could talk about the BRI and India's how how India has been countering and plans to counter. All right, so there you can bring in IMEC, you can bring in I2U2, you can bring in the IOR, etc., which we are also trying to build against with China in mind. All right, so uh, that will change it a bit, definitely. But you could think about it because there's already another person working on IMEC, and obviously he has to bring in BRI for that. Okay, but yours, of course, is a very comprehensive that way. But what you must remember is IMEC has produced nothing, not yet. Okay, uh, so think about that and think about basically things which have already been done. All right, what we're trying to build up in the Indian Ocean region and all that as a counter to China's the BRI. All right, uh, some of which is getting completed. Okay, so you could think of something wider, or if you just want to stick to IMEC and BRI, point out the challenges more than anything else. Okay.
Ma'am, if I develop a whole comprehensive point of view from India and what are the challenges the BRI poses for India, should I also will it be like right to include the quad angle for
Yeah,
that?
definitely. Quad angle is very much part of that. But the future of Quad, again, well, of course, Trump is there only for 4 years. Uh, but then in the last one, he got rid of the he stepped out of the TPP, if you remember that. Okay, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So Quad is there. Meetings are also held, and uh, but we do not know, but certainly bring it in, all right? While bringing in the challenges of the Trump administration that is posed to the Quad, because you do not find the Quad active in the last few months. Okay, meetings and things like that. I mean, it's never been active otherwise, but there are meetings and there have been plans and all that. Things like, for instance, disaster management and all that. All that is very much on the plate, and it should work. All right. It's not just a question of counter to China, but there are other areas, because uh, it looks at the Indo-Pacific. All right. I mean, the problems there and how it acts, and of course, it's Mexican stand. So yes, I think the Quad definitely comes in there. Hmm. So you could think about that. In fact, I would like you to, how India is trying to counter China's BRI, has tried to so far. Okay, uh, it'll be a bit more work, but I think should be more interesting because IMEC hasn't started. All right, it's a
Right, it's a
plan.
future project.
It's a future project which may not even take off. Right.
Oh, right.
That way. Hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, Harsh.
Thank you, ma'am. With this we come to an end with today's presentation. Having you was an honor to all of us, and we are grateful for your presence this evening. With this, I would like to proceed with a formal vote of thanks. As we conclude day 2 of presentations of Diplomacy, Foreign Policy, and Geopolitics Youth Fellowship, Cohort 2.0, I, Niharika, on behalf of IMPRI Center for International Relations and Strategic Studies, extend my heartfelt gratitude. We sincerely thank our expert for today, Dr. Sanjukta Bhattacharya ji, for her invaluable contributions and for engaging us in a powerful discussion. We thank all our fellows for their grateful presentations today. We truly look forward to reading your research essays and seeing how your ideas develop further. Session recordings and resources will be shared via mail. A video recording of today's session will be available for everybody's reference. We look forward to seeing you all on September 11th for our last session for this fellowship. If you are following our work by watching it later on YouTube, listening via podcast, or reading our publications, we truly are appreciative of your engagement and support. Once again, thank you all for being a part of this initiative. Wishing you a great evening ahead. Signing off, this is Niharika once again.